It was a hot summer day in 1965, and I had two paths laid out right in front of me. One path was safe, secure, and certain, and the other was the road that could have made me a millionaire. I chose the path where I wouldn't have to break a sweat. Now, 60 years later, I'm telling you the honest truth. Picking that easy road was the biggest mistake of my life, and it wasn't about the money. It was the mistake that maybe you are making right now, letting fear dictate your life decisions. Welcome. My name is Arthur Davis, and you're watching Arthur Davis's Life Lessons, the place where we dig into the past to find solutions for the troubles of today. If you're looking for some straight-up wisdom from a man who's seen a few things, please hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a critical lesson. Today, we're talking about the one chance I let slip away back in my youth. Trust me, this isn't just a story. This is a crucial warning for all of you. Let's get started. To truly understand the weight of the decision I faced, you have to picture where I was in 1965. Man, that era had a pulse to it. The country was alive, the music was getting loud, and the promise of progress was everywhere. We had this unshakable belief that every generation would have it better than the last. But underneath all that optimism, the core value remained the same, especially for my generation: stability. My father, a good, hard-working man, hammered it into me every chance he got. Arthur, son, your worth is measured by your word, and your success is measured by your pension. I was 25, fresh out of college, newly married to my beautiful Mary. We had just scraped together a down payment for a simple 3-bedroom ranch house in the Chicago suburbs. I had achieved the gold standard of that time, a guaranteed job. I was an accountant at a large textile manufacturing firm. The pay was decent. The benefits were superb: a health plan, a solid 401k, before they even called it that. Every payday, that check was waiting. That was the dream my parents had sacrificed for. But inside, I felt like a horse tied to a fence. I had this urge, this fierce need to be an architect of my own life, not just an employee. And then came Pete Miller. Pete was a brilliant college friend. While everyone else was focused on graduating, Pete was tinkering with circuits and punch cards. He was starting a data processing firm, what you all call tech today. They had developed a system that could manage inventory for huge warehouses using these bulky, newfangled machines. It was revolutionary, but it also felt insane. Pete called me one cold evening. He was practically bouncing off the walls. He needed a business mind, someone grounded, someone to handle the finances and find investors. He was offering me a genuine partnership, 1/3 ownership of the entire operation. All I had to do was leave my safe textile job and put in $10,000, my entire savings. It was a terrifying sum, but the potential payoff was astronomical. Pete wasn't just offering me a job. He was offering me a seat on a spaceship heading straight into the future. I had 7 days to decide whether I was a safe accountant or a risk-taking owner. That week was maybe the longest of my life. I couldn't sleep. Every night I'd look over those crude business plans Pete had drawn up. And every morning I'd stare at my stable job contract. That $10,000 wasn't just my savings. It was our entire nest egg. If Pete's venture failed, and the overwhelming consensus was that it would, Mary and I would lose our house. We'd be starting over, and starting over in your mid-20s in 1965 felt like a death sentence. I talked to my father, of course. That was my first mistake. He nearly hit the roof. You want to throw away a pension for a pie-in-the-sky computer scheme, Arthur? You'll be a laughingstock. What about your wife? What about the family name? His voice carried the weight of the Depression era, a generation that believed risk was foolish and security was holy. He didn't see Pete as a visionary. He saw him as a reckless gambler. Mary, bless her heart, was supportive but worried. She didn't want the risk, but she wanted me to be happy. That made it even harder. When she looked at me, I didn't just see my wife. I saw the mortgage payment, the health insurance, the expectations of society. The pressure wasn't just financial, it was existential. Could I live with myself if I dragged my wife into financial ruin because of a maybe? I remember sitting in the park the day before the deadline. I was looking at a photograph of my grandfather, a man who built a simple, reliable life. I told myself that the responsible thing, the wise thing, was to protect what I had already built, that the best path was the established path. The fear of being the guy who failed, the one who lost everything on a crazy idea, was far heavier than the excitement of becoming the guy who struck it rich. I walked into Pete Miller's makeshift office the next morning and told him I couldn't do it. I shook his hand, apologized profusely, and walked away. I chose the stable, predictable path. I returned to my safe desk, looked at my calendar, and penciled in my next vacation. I felt a surge of relief that the anxiety was gone. But underneath that relief, there was this tiny, almost imperceptible hollow feeling. I had traded the potential of my biggest dream for the certainty of my comfortable routine. For the first 10 years, I told myself I'd made the smart call. Pete Miller's company, which he'd named DataStream, struggled for the first few years. I saw him occasionally, and he always looked tired, stressed. Meanwhile, my life was humming along smoothly. Mary and I had 2 great kids, a second car, and my promotion to senior manager meant the house was almost paid off. I had achieved the exact security my father had promised. I was stable, I was comfortable, and for a while, I was genuinely happy. Then came the mid-1970s. That's when things started to change, dramatically. DataStream finally hit its stride. They landed huge contracts with major retail chains, and suddenly, those tiny computer systems became essential. Pete and Sam weren't just working out of a small office anymore. They were moving into a sleek glass tower downtown. The local papers started doing these big features on them, the new titans of technology, they called them. I remember sitting at my own desk, the one that offered me such comfort, reading an article about Pete Miller. He was described as a self-made multi-millionaire, talking about his plans to take the company public. And there was a photograph of him, standing beside a private jet, smiling that big, reckless smile. That's when the hollow feeling I mentioned didn't feel hollow anymore. It felt like a punch to the gut. I started doing math, the one thing I was truly good at. My $10,000 investment for 1/3 ownership. If the public offering valued DataStream at even $50 million, which was conservative, my stake would be worth over $16 million. $16 million. My comfortable retirement plan looked like pocket change next to that figure. It wasn't just money, though. It was the thrill of having been right, the satisfaction of having built something groundbreaking, and the absolute freedom that wealth would have brought. I realized I hadn't just secured my life, I had capped its potential. My safe choice now looked like the most expensive mistake I'd ever made. The regret wasn't something I could keep bottled up forever. It started eating at me. Every success Pete Miller had felt like a failure of my own courage. I was snappy with the kids, distracted at dinner, and frankly, I was moody. Mary noticed everything. She didn't press me, which, ironically, made me feel guiltier. The worst part was feeling like I had betrayed her and the potential future she deserved. One Saturday evening, we were sitting on the porch swing, the one we bought when we first got the house. The kids were asleep, the air was cool, and everything was quiet. I finally just broke. I told her the whole story, start to finish. The way I had replayed it in my head 1,000 times. The steak dinner, the $10,000, the fear, and the shame I felt every time I saw Pete Miller's face in the news. I told her, Mary, I chose fear over you. I chose the easy path, and I let us down. I expected anger, or maybe tears. Instead, she was silent for a long time. Then, she took my hand. That gesture always calmed me. And she looked me straight in the eye. She said, Arthur, listen to me. We have 2 healthy children, a roof over our heads, and you come home every day. Yes, We could have had a private jet, but we could also have had nothing. You protected us. You chose stability when I needed stability the most. I won't let you diminish the good life we built just because someone else got rich faster. That conversation was the hardest truth I had to face. Mary didn't absolve me of my lack of courage, but she gave me perspective. She didn't mourn the millions we missed. She celebrated the life we secured. It taught me that regret, unchecked, will spoil the blessings you already have. But the core lesson, the original mistake, it still lingered, and Mary knew I still had to reckon with that. Mary's words helped me sleep at night, but they didn't entirely erase the regret. I had to live with that shadow of what if for decades. But over time, as I watched other people, successful people, failed people, I started to realize something profound about that day in 1965. The regret wasn't really about the $16 million. Think about it. I eventually retired comfortably. My children are successful. We travel. We have everything we need. If money was the only issue, I would have just been jealous of Pete, but the feeling was much deeper. The regret was that I had let fear be the CEO of my life. I let the possibility of pain, the pain of losing everything, dictate my actions, instead of the potential for greatness. I listened to the chorus of doubters, my father, society, the safe accountants, instead of the quiet, ambitious voice inside my own gut. The real currency I lost that day was courage. It was the belief in my own judgment. I was offered a chance to bet on myself, and I folded. That lack of faith, that's what haunts you when you get to my age. You can rebuild a bank account, but it's hard to rebuild a lost opportunity to prove yourself. This is the priceless lesson I carry. There are moments in your life when the risk is worth the exposure. Not every risk. Don't be foolish. But when you are young, and you have a clear vision, and you have the ability to work hard, you have a fundamental duty to chase that vision, regardless of the potential for failure. Because the pain of trying and failing lasts a season, but the pain of never trying at all lasts a lifetime. And I realized that my safe path was the most cowardly path of all. So, what does this 60-year-old regret, my mistake from 1965, mean for you right now, today? It means everything, because the problem hasn't changed. The names of the opportunities are different. Maybe it's a brilliant crypto investment. Maybe it's starting a strange new business. Maybe it's pursuing a totally non-traditional career path. But the core question is the exact same one I faced. Are you going to bet on yourself? Or are you going to bet on the safe opinion of your father, your friends, and your banker? Remember this. When you are young, you possess one currency that no millionaire can buy, and that is time. You have the time to fail, to recover, to learn the lessons, and to try again. If I had lost that $10,000 back then, Mary and I would have struggled for a few years, but we had the energy and youth to bounce back. The older you get, the less time you have, and the more costly failure becomes. That's why my regret is a permanent fixture. So here is my final clear piece of advice for you. Do not let the fear of looking foolish or losing everything prevent you from trying the one thing you know, deep in your gut, is right. Don't be like young Arthur Davis, who prioritized the silence of anxiety over the excitement of the unknown. Take the chance, because the pain of trying and failing lasts a season, but the excruciating pain of never trying at all lasts a lifetime. I built a good life, a secure life, but I didn't build the greatest life I was capable of building. Don't make my mistake now. I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what is the biggest risk you've taken in your life? Or the one you're still too afraid to take? Let's build a community of courage. If this story resonated with you, and you want more lessons learned the hard way, please hit that subscribe button right now. Join me next week for another honest look at life. Until then, take care and don't be afraid to take the difficult road.